In the dead of night, a bone-chilling bark tore through the quiet of Willow Creek, a small town nestled along the banks of the murky Greenwater River in rural Wisconsin. The river, its surface glinting faintly under a sliver of moonlight, seemed to hold secrets in its sluggish currents. The townsfolk, lulled by the familiar chorus of crickets and the soft ripple of water, stirred uneasily in their homes. That wasn't the stray dog rummaging through trash cans. It was a primal, urgent sound, a warning that something was horribly wrong. Detective John Harper, a weathered officer with 2 decades on the force, was jolted awake by the shrill ring of his phone. The clock glowed 2:17 a.m. His wife, Emily, mumbled about another damn case, but Harper was already yanking on his boots. The voice on the line was Officer Sarah Ruiz, his deputy, her tone tight with urgency. "John, you gotta get to the riverbank by Old Man Carter's cornfield. Something's not right. Storm's going nuts, and there's a stench. Jesus, it's bad." Storm, a 4-year-old German Shepherd and Harper's loyal K9 partner, wasn't one to lose his cool. Trained to sniff out everything from drugs to decomposing remains, Storm's nose was sharper than most forensic labs. If Storm was barking like that, it wasn't just a raccoon carcass washed ashore. Harper grabbed his jacket, badge, and flashlight, then called out, "Storm, let's roll!" The dog, curled up in his kennel by the door, snapped to attention, eyes gleaming with purpose. Harper's pickup truck roared through the empty streets of Willow Creek, the red and blue lights slicing through the darkness. Storm sat upright in the passenger seat, ears pricked, as if he could sense the gravity of what lay ahead. The Greenwater River ran parallel to County Road 12, flanked by dense willows and patches of marshy grass. Old Man Carter's cornfield, a sprawling expanse of stalks gone brittle in the late fall, marked the edge of town where civilization gave way to wilderness. At the scene, Harper found Ruiz and 2 other officers, their flashlights sweeping the riverbank. The air was thick with a putrid smell, like rotting meat left in the sun. Storm, already on a leash with Officer Daniels, was straining toward the water, his barks echoing across the river. "What have we got?" Harper asked, his voice steady despite the knot in his gut. Ruiz pointed toward a cluster of reeds near the bank. "Storm started freaking out when we got here on patrol. Daniels let him off to sniff around, and he zeroed in on that spot. The smell's coming from there, but we haven't found anything yet. It's too dark to see much." Harper nodded, his flashlight beam cutting through the mist rising off the river. "Storm doesn't bark for nothing. Let's take a look." He took the leash from Daniels, giving Storm a firm pat. "Find it, boy." The dog surged forward, nose to the ground, his barks turning to low, guttural growls as he homed in on the reeds. The team followed, boots sinking into the muddy bank. The stench grew stronger, making Ruiz gag. Harper, hardened by years of grim discoveries, kept his focus on Storm. The dog stopped abruptly, pawing at a patch of earth where the reeds were matted down, as if something heavy had been dragged through. Storm's growls intensified, and he began digging, flinging mud with frantic energy. "Hold up, Storm," Harper commanded, pulling him back. He crouched, shining his light on the disturbed soil. There, half buried in the muck, was a tattered piece of fabric, a sleeve stained dark with something that wasn't just mud. Harper's stomach churned. "Ruiz, call in forensics. We've got a crime scene." As Ruiz radioed for backup, Harper let Storm sniff the fabric. The dog's reaction was immediate. He lunged toward the river, barking wildly, his eyes fixed on a shadowy shape bobbing in the shallows. Harper waded in, the icy water soaking his boots, and dragged the object closer. It was a burlap sack, heavy and sodden, tied with twine. The smell was unbearable now, a mix of decay and river rot. With gloved hands, Harper cut the twine and opened the sack. Inside was a human arm, severed at the shoulder, the flesh gray and bloated. The officers gasped, and Daniels swore under his breath. Harper's jaw tightened. This isn't an accident. Someone dumped this here. Storm, still barking, circled the bank, his nose darting between the sack and the surrounding area. Harper knew the dog was picking up traces of something, or someone else. Ruiz, secure the perimeter. Daniels, get Storm to keep searching. Whoever did this might have left more behind. The forensics team arrived within the hour, their floodlights casting an eerie glow over the riverbank. Dr. Ellen Kessler, the county coroner, examined the arm with clinical precision. Male, likely 20s or 30s, based on size and muscle structure, she said. Severed with a sharp blade, clean cut, professional. Time of death is hard to pin down, but I'd guess 48 to 72 hours. The river's cold, so decomposition's slowed. Harper frowned. Any identifying marks? Kessler pointed to a faded tattoo on the forearm, a crude eagle clutching a snake. This might help. It's distinctive. We'll run it through missing persons. As the team bagged the evidence, Storm's barks drew Harper's attention back to the reeds. The dog was digging again, this time unearthing a small metal object glinting in the mud. A dog tag, the kind worn by military veterans. Harper picked it up, wiping away the grime. The name engraved on it read, J. Malone. His heart sank. Jimmy Malone, a local drifter and Gulf War vet, had been reported missing 2 weeks ago. The tattoo matched the description in his file. Ruiz, pull Malone's file, Harper ordered. If this is him, we've got a homicide on our hands. The rest of the night was a blur of activity. Crime scene photos, evidence collection, and Storm's relentless sniffing along the riverbank. By dawn, the team had found more. A shoe, a scrap of bloody denim, and a rusted knife blade, all scattered within a 50-yard radius. Storm's instincts had turned a routine patrol into a murder investigation, but Harper knew this was just the beginning. Jimmy Malone wasn't the first person to vanish in Willow Creek. Over the past year, 5 others, mostly transients or loners, had gone missing, their cases dismissed as runaways or accidents. Now, with a severed arm and Storm's nose leading the way, Harper suspected something far darker was at play. Back at the station, Harper sat at his desk, Malone's file open in front of him. The photo showed a gaunt man in his 50s, eyes hollow from years of hard living. His last known address was a homeless shelter in nearby Ashwood. Harper's mind raced. Why Malone? Why the river? And why cut him up? The precision of the cut suggested skill, maybe a butcher or a surgeon. The thought made his skin crawl. Storm, lying by Harper's chair, let out a soft whine. Harper reached down, scratching the dog's ears. "You did good, boy. Now we gotta figure out what you're trying to tell us." He stared at the dog tag, its edges worn from years of wear. Something about it felt off, like it was planted to be found. Harper's gut told him this wasn't a random killing. It was a message, or a mistake. As the sun rose over Willow Creek, the town buzzed with rumors. News of the discovery had leaked, and by noon, reporters were camped outside the station. Harper ignored them, focusing on the evidence. The knife blade was being tested for DNA, the tattoo was being cross-referenced, and Storm was scheduled for another sweep of the riverbank. But Harper couldn't shake the feeling that the Greenwater River held more secrets, and that Storm's barks were only the first step in unraveling a nightmare that would shake Willow Creek to its core. The morning sun barely pierced the thick fog blanketing Willow Creek, casting a ghostly pall over the Greenwater River. Detective John Harper stood outside the Willow Creek police station. a styrofoam cup of bitter coffee warming his hands. The events of the previous night, the severed arm, the dog tag, Storm's relentless barking, clung to him like the damp chill in the air. Jimmy Malone's face, gaunt and haunted, stared back from the missing persons file on his desk, a reminder that this wasn't just a case, but a life snuffed out. Storm, curled up in the bed of Harper's pickup, lifted his head, ears twitching as if sensing his partner's unease. Inside the station, the bullpen buzzed with a nervous energy Harper hadn't felt since the meth busts of '09. Officer Sarah Ruiz was pinning photos from the riverbank to a corkboard, her face pale from lack of sleep. Officer Daniels, still shaken from the discovery, was on the phone with the county lab, pressing for DNA results. The air smelled of stale donuts and desperation. Harper knew they were standing on the edge of something big, too big for a town of 3,000 souls. "Ruiz, what have we got on Malone?" Harper asked, striding to the board. The photos showed the burlap sack, the arm, the knife blade, and the muddy riverbank where Storm had sounded the alarm. Each image was a piece of a puzzle, but the picture was still maddeningly incomplete. Ruiz taped up a copy of Malone's file. James Jimmy Malone, 52, Gulf War vet, last seen at the Ashwood Salvation Army shelter 2 weeks ago. No family, no fixed address. Known for panhandling near the I-94 overpass. His buddy at the shelter, Maggie Tate, reported him missing when he didn't show for his usual soup kitchen run. Harper studied the tattoo photo, an eagle clutching a snake. "That tattoo's our best lead. Any hits on it?" "Not yet," Ruiz said. "I sent it to the state database and the VA Kessler's running prints from the arm, but the river water degraded them. We're hoping the DNA from the knife blade pans out." Harper nodded, his mind drifting to the other missing persons cases, gathering dust in the station's basement. 5 in the past year, all written off as drifters skipping town or overdoses in some ditch. Malone's arm changed everything. "Pull the other files, anyone reported missing in the last 18 months. I want names, dates, last known locations." Ruiz hesitated. "John, you think this is connected? Those cases were dead ends. No bodies, no witnesses." "Storm doesn't bark at dead ends," Harper cut in, his voice firm. "Get the files." As Ruiz headed to the archives, Harper knelt beside Storm, who'd followed him inside. The German Shepherd's brown eyes locked onto his, steady and unyielding. "What did you smell out there, boy?" Harper murmured, scratching Storm's ears. The dog whined softly, as if urging him to keep digging. By noon, Ruiz had stacked 6 manila folders on Harper's desk, each labeled with a name and a date. Tanya Brooks, 34, missing March 2024. Marcus Reed, 41, missing June 2024. Ellen Hayes, 28, missing August 2024. 2024. Bobby Klein, 19, missing October 2024. Jimmy Malone, 52, missing November 2024. Lily Parker, 12, missing May 2024. Harper's gut twisted at the last name. Lily, a foster kid who'd vanished after a school field trip, was the only minor. Her case had sparked a brief media frenzy, but when leads dried up, the town moved on. Harper hadn't. He spread the files out, searching for patterns. All 6 were loners, homeless, addicts, or, in Lily's case, a kid with no stable family, no ransom demands, no sightings, no bodies, until now. "They're all invisible," Harper said aloud, more to himself than Ruiz. "People nobody'd miss." Ruiz frowned. "You think someone's targeting them because they're easy prey?" "Maybe," Harper said, tapping Malone's file. "Or because no one asks questions when they're gone." The phone rang, breaking the tension. It was Dr. Kessler from the coroner's office. "John, we've got something." The knife blade had trace blood, not Malone's. Another DNA profile, male, no match in CODIS. Also, the blade serrated high-carbon steel like a hunting knife, not your average kitchen cutter. Harper's pulse quickened. What about the arm? Anything new? The tattoo's a match for Malone's VA records. It's him. But here's the weird part. The arm was frozen before it was dumped. Ice crystals in the tissue. Whoever did this stored it somewhere cold, maybe to delay decomp. Harper hung up, his mind racing. Frozen? That meant a freezer, a storage unit, or a facility with industrial cooling. Willow Creek wasn't exactly teeming with those. He grabbed Storm's leash. "Ruiz, you're with me. We're heading back to the river. Storm's got more to show us." The Greenwater River looked different in daylight, its banks a tangle of mud and reeds under a gray November sky. Harper parked near Old Man Carter's cornfield, where yellow crime scene tape fluttered in the breeze. Storm leaped from the truck, nose already working the ground. Harper handed Ruiz a map of the river's course. Malone's arm was dumped here, but the current could have carried it downstream. We need to check upstream, see if Storm picks up anything. They trudged along the bank, Storm leading the way. The dog's movements were methodical, his nose darting between rocks and roots. After a mile, the river curved past a crumbling structure half hidden by willows. The old Grayson Mill, a derelict sawmill, shuttered since the 80s. Its rusted smokestack loomed like a gravestone, and the air carried a faint metallic tang. Storm's ears shot up. He bolted toward the mill, barks echoing off the decaying walls. Harper and Ruiz exchanged a glance and followed, weapons drawn. The mill's yard was overgrown with weeds, littered with broken pallets and rusted machinery. Storm stopped at a sagging wooden door, pawing at it and growling low in his throat. "Easy, boy," Harper said, prying the door open. The hinges screamed, revealing a cavernous interior shrouded in dust and shadows. The smell hit them immediately, musty, with an undercurrent of something sharper, like old blood. Storm surged inside, his barks bouncing off the rafters. Harper's flashlight swept the room, illuminating splintered floorboards and cobwebbed beams. Storm zeroed in on a corner where the floor was scuffed, as if something heavy had been dragged across it. The dog began digging, claws scraping wood. Harper knelt, spotting faint reddish stains in the grain. "Ruiz, get a sample of this. Could be blood." As Ruiz scraped the stains into an evidence bag, Storm's barks grew frantic. He was nosing at a pile of debris, broken crates and tarp scraps. Harper shoved the junk aside, revealing a trap door, its edges caked with dirt. His heart pounded. "Storm, you beautiful bastard," he muttered, pulling the trapdoor open. A rickety ladder descended into darkness. Harper went first, flashlight clenched between his teeth, Storm close behind. Ruiz followed, her breathing shallow. The air below was damp and cold, the walls lined with crumbling brick. At the bottom, Harper's light fell on a metal box, padlocked and rusted, tucked against the wall. "Cover me," Harper told Ruiz, smashing the lock with a crowbar from his pack. The box creaked open, revealing a chilling collection. A woman's scarf, a man's watch, a child's friendship bracelet, a cracked phone, and a dog-eared photo of a young boy. Harper's blood ran cold. These weren't random items, they were trophies or remnants of lives erased. "Jesus," Ruiz whispered. "These belong to the missing, don't they?" Harper nodded grimly. "Bag it all. We need to know who these belong to." Storm, still sniffing, began pawing at the dirt floor. Harper joined him, scraping away loose soil until his fingers hit something hard, a bone, small and delicate, like a child's finger. He froze, the weight of the discovery crushing him. "Ruiz, call Kessler. We've got remains." As the forensics team descended on the mill, Harper stepped outside, letting Storm roam the yard. The dog's nose led him to a patch of disturbed earth near the river, where he began digging again. Harper watched, his mind spinning. The mill belonged to Carl Grayson, a local real estate mogul who'd bought it years ago, claiming he'd redevelop it. Grayson was a pillar of Willow Creek, church deacon, Chamber of Commerce president, and a regular at the mayor's fundraisers. But Harper had never trusted his slick smile or the way he seemed to own half the town. "Ruiz, what do we know about Grayson?" Harper asked as they drove back to the station, Storm panting in the back seat. "He's loaded," Ruiz said, flipping through her notes. "Owns the mill, the strip mall on Main, and a dozen rental properties. Donates big to the sheriff's re-election campaign. Word is, he's tight with Mayor Holt. Why?" "That mill's been empty for decades, but someone's been using it," Harper said. "Grayson's got keys to the place. We need to talk to him." At the station, Harper ran Grayson's name through the system. No criminal record, but a civil lawsuit from 2002 caught his eye. A tenant had accused Grayson of illegal evictions, claiming he'd targeted low-income renters to clear land for condos. The case was settled out of court. Harper's gut told him Grayson wasn't just a bystander. He decided to visit the Ashwood Salvation Army shelter to talk to Maggie Tate, Malone's friend. The shelter, a squat brick building off the highway, smelled of bleach and boiled cabbage. Maggie, a wiry woman in her 60s with a smoker's rasp, sat at a folding table, clutching a cup of tea. "Jimmy was a good guy," Maggie said, her eyes misty. "Drank too much, sure, but he'd give you his last dollar. 2 weeks ago, he said some guy offered him work, cash under the table. Said it was hauling stuff by the river. I told him it sounded sketchy, but Jimmy needed the money." Harper leaned forward. "Did he describe the guy?" "Tall, wore a fancy coat, not like the usual drifters. Jimmy said he had a scar on his hand, like a burn. That's all I got." Harper showed her a photo of Grayson from a Chamber of Commerce event. Maggie squinted. "Could be him. That coat looks familiar." Back in Willow Creek, Harper arranged a meeting with Grayson at his downtown office, a sleek glass building that felt out of place among the town's faded storefronts. Grayson, a barrel-chested man in his 50s with a Rolex glinting on his wrist, greeted Harper with a politician's smile. Storm, on a leash, growled softly, his hackles raised. "Detective Harper, what's this about?" Grayson asked, leaning back in his leather chair. "I heard about the mess at the river. Tragic." "We found evidence at your mill," Harper said, watching Grayson's face. "Blood, personal items, possible remains. Care to explain?" Grayson's smile didn't waver. "That mill's been boarded up for years. Kids break in, vandals, you know how it is. I haven't set foot there since I bought it." "Funny," Harper said, "because Storm here thinks otherwise." He let Storm sniff Grayson's desk, the dog's nose lingering on a stack of blueprints. Grayson shifted uncomfortably. "I'm a busy man, Detective. If you've got accusations, make them. Otherwise, I've got a meeting." Harper stood, Storm's leash taut. "We'll be in touch, Carl. Don't leave town." That evening, Harper and Ruiz reviewed the mill evidence. The scarf matched one Tanya Brooks wore in a photo. The watch had Marcus Reed's initials scratched on the back. The child's bracelet was Lily Parker's, confirmed by her foster mom. The bone fragment was still being analyzed, but Kessler suspected it was human. The pieces were coming together, but Harper needed more. Motive, means, a killer. As they prepared for another riverbank sweep, a call came in from the fire department. The Grayson mill was ablaze, flames licking the sky. Harper and Storm raced to the scene, arriving to find firefighters battling a wall of fire. The mill's roof collapsed, sending sparks into the night. Arson, Harper thought. Someone's covering their tracks. Storm, undeterred, circled the perimeter, his barks cutting through the roar of the flames. Near the river's edge, he began digging, unearthing a small mud-caked object. Harper knelt, his flashlight revealing a child's sneaker, pink and tattered, with a tiny heart drawn on the sole. His blood ran cold. Lily Parker's foster mom had mentioned Lily's favorite sneakers, pink, with a heart she'd drawn herself. "Ruiz," Harper called, his voice hoarse. "We've got a problem. This isn't just about Malone. We're looking at a serial killer." The fog over Willow Creek thickened as dawn broke, cloaking the Greenwater River in a shroud of gray. Detective John Harper stood at the edge of Old Man Carter's cornfield, the pink sneaker clutched in his gloved hand, the tiny heart drawn on its sole. A child's doodle felt like a dagger in his chest. Lily Parker, the 12-year-old foster kid who'd vanished 6 months ago, was no longer just a missing person. Storm, the German shepherd who'd unearthed the sneaker, sat beside him, ears pricked, as if sensing the weight of the moment. The distant wail of sirens signaled the forensics team's arrival, but Harper knew the town would never be the same. The night before, the fire at the Grayson Mill had destroyed potential evidence, leaving Harper with more questions than answers. The bloodstains, the trapdoor, the box of personal items, scarf, watch, bracelet, pointed to a serial killer preying on Willow Creek's forgotten. Now, Lily's sneaker suggested the killer's reach extended beyond drifters and loners to children. Harper's jaw tightened. He'd promised Lily's foster mom, Clara Evans, he'd find her. That promise was slipping through his fingers. Officer Sarah Ruiz jogged over, her face pale. "Forensics is setting up. Kessler's on her way. John, if that's Lily's shoe..." "It is," Harper said, his voice flat. "Storm doesn't make mistakes." He handed her the sneaker, bagged and labeled. "Get this to Kessler and pull Lily Parker's file. We need to know everything. Where she was last seen, who she was with." Ruiz nodded, but her eyes lingered on the riverbank, where Storm was sniffing the mud. "This is gonna blow up, John. The press is already sniffing around. Channel 6 was at the station this morning." "Let 'em sniff," Harper said. "We focus on the case. Storm's got us this far. He'll get us further." The forensics team descended, their floodlights cutting through the fog. Dr. Ellen Kessler, the county coroner, examined the sneaker with a grim nod. "Matches the description in Lily's file. Pink Converse, size 5, with a heart drawn in marker. Clara Evans confirmed it last night when we called." Harper's stomach churned. "Any chance it's not hers?" Kessler shook her head. "Doubtful. We'll run DNA to be sure, but the heart's a dead ringer. Where'd Storm find it?" Harper pointed to the patch of disturbed earth near the mill's ruins. "Right there. He was digging like his life depended on it." Kessler squinted at the ground. "Looks like someone tried to cover their tracks. The soil's too loose, like it was turned recently. Let's get a GPR unit out here, ground-penetrating radar. If there's a body, we'll find it." As the team set up, Harper let Storm off his leash. The dog bounded along the riverbank, nose low, weaving through reeds and driftwood. His barks grew sharper, more insistent, near a cluster of willows where the river curved. Harper followed, his boots sinking into the muck. Storm stopped at a mound of earth, partially hidden by roots, and began pawing frantically. "Ruiz, over here!" Harper called, dropping to his knees. He scraped away dirt, revealing a patch of fabric, blue denim, stained dark. His heart sank. "Get Kessler. We've got something." The team excavated carefully, their shovels moving with surgical precision. Inch by inch, they uncovered a small, fragile form wrapped in a tattered blanket. Kessler knelt, peeling back the fabric to reveal the remains of a child, skeletal and brittle. The skull bore a faint tuft of blonde hair, matted with mud. A silver locket, tarnished but intact, hung around the neck. Harper stepped back, bile rising in his throat. "Is it her?" Kessler's voice was barely audible. The locket has Lily P engraved on it. It's her. The team fell silent, the only sound Storm's low whine as he sat by the grave. Harper clenched his fists, fighting the urge to punch something. Lily Parker, who'd loved drawing hearts and dreamed of being a veterinarian, had been reduced to bones in a riverbank. Someone had stolen her future, and Harper was going to make them pay. By midday, the crime scene was a hive of activity. Reporters swarmed the perimeter, their cameras flashing through the fog. Townsfolk gathered beyond the tape, whispering about curses and river ghosts. Harper ignored them, focusing on Kessler's preliminary findings. Cause of death is hard to determine without a full autopsy, she said. But there's a fracture on the skull, blunt force trauma, and we found traces of a sedative in the tissue, same as Malone's arm. Midazolam, a surgical-grade anesthetic. Harper's eyes narrowed. Same killer? Likely, Kessler said. The sedative's not street stuff. It's controlled, used in hospitals or clinics. And the knife marks on Lily's ribs match the blade we found with Malone's arm. Serrated, precise. A medical connection. Harper's mind flashed to the mill's bloodstains, the trapdoor, the personal items. Whoever was doing this had access to drugs, tools, and a place to store bodies. He turned to Ruiz. We need to dig into Carl Grayson's business. That mill's his, and he's dodging us. Find out what else he owns. Warehouses, rentals, anything with a freezer. Ruiz nodded, but her expression was tense. John, Grayson's not just some landlord. He's got the mayor in his pocket. If we push too hard, we push, Harper said. Storm found Lily. We owe her that. The station was chaos when they returned. Phones rang off the hook, and a crowd of reporters clogged the lobby. Harper slipped into his office, Storm at his heels, and spread out the case files. Lily's file was thin. Last seen at a school picnic by the river, wearing her pink sneakers and locket. No witnesses, no suspects. The other files, Brooks, Reed, Hayes, Klein, Malone, followed the same pattern. Marginalized, no family, last seen near the Greenwater. The sedative was the key. Harper needed to know who had access to midazolam. He called Dr. Kessler. Ellen, where's midazolam sourced? Hospitals? Pharmacies? Mostly hospitals, she said. Surgical units, ICUS. Some private clinics stock it, but it's tightly regulated. You'd need a prescription or a medical license to get it legally. Black market's another story, but it's rare. Harper hung up, his gaze falling on a business card pinned to his board. Grayson Properties. Grayson's empire included half of Willow Creek, including a stake in the Willow Creek Wellness Clinic, a private facility on the edge of town. The clinic's director, Dr. Alan Voss, was a respected surgeon who'd moved to Willow Creek 5 years ago. Harper had met him once at a charity gala. Polished, charming, but with eyes that seemed to see through you. A surgeon would have access to midazolam, scalpels, and the skill to make clean cuts. Ruiz, get me everything on Dr. Alan Voss, Harper said. Background, licenses, any complaints, and check if Grayson's tied to the clinic financially. Ruiz hesitated. Voss? He's like the town's golden boy. Fixed the mayor's knee last year. You sure? Storm's sure, Harper said, patting the dog. And that's enough for me. By evening, Ruiz had a dossier on Voss, age 42, trained at Johns Hopkins, specialized in transplant surgery. Moved to Willow Creek after a malpractice suit in Chicago. Settled quietly, no conviction. The clinic's financials showed Grayson as a major investor, funneling millions into its expansion. Voss's lifestyle raised red flags, a lakeside mansion, a Porsche, and frequent trips to Vegas, all on a small-town doctor's salary. Harper decided to visit the clinic, bringing Storm along. The Willow Creek Wellness Clinic was a modern glass building, its lobby lined with awards and photos of smiling patients. Voss greeted Harper with a handshake, his smile practiced. "Detective, to what do I owe the pleasure?" "We're investigating the recent findings by the river," Harper said, watching Voss's face. "Got a few questions about your clinic. Mind if we look around?" Voss's smile faltered, but he nodded. "Of course, we're an open book." Harper let Storm lead, the dog's nose scanning the sterile halls. The clinic was quiet, with only a few staff on duty. Storm's ears twitched as they passed a locked door marked storage. He stopped, sniffing intensely, then let out a sharp bark. Harper glanced at Voss. "What's in there?" "Just supplies," Voss said too quickly. "Bandages, IV bags, nothing exciting." "Mind opening it?" Harper asked, his tone leaving no room for argument. Voss hesitated, then produced a key. The door opened to a dimly lit room stacked with boxes and medical equipment. Storm surged forward, pawing at a metal cabinet in the corner. Harper opened it, revealing a stack of files labeled Unreported Admissions. He flipped one open. Patient, unknown male, age approximately 40, admitted June 15th, 2024. Procedure, tissue extraction. The date matched Marcus Reed's disappearance. Harper's pulse raced. "Care to explain this, Doc?" Voss's face went pale. "Those are research files for organ donation studies, all legal." "Research on unknown patients?" Harper pressed. "With no names? No consent?" Before Voss could answer, Storm's barks echoed from a back corner. Harper followed, finding a grate in the floor, barely noticeable under a pile of crates. Storm was clawing at it, growling. Harper pried it open, revealing a staircase descending into darkness. "What's down there, Voss?" "It's just maintenance," Voss stammered. "Boilers, pipes." Harper drew his gun. "Stay here, Ruiz, watch him." With Storm at his side, he descended the stairs, flashlight cutting through the gloom. The air was cold, heavy with the scent of antiseptic and something fouler. Blood. At the bottom, Harper found a locked door. Storm's barks were deafening now, his claws scraping metal. Harper kicked the door open, revealing a small room lined with shelves. The shelves held medical files, vials of drugs, and, chillingly, a cooler marked biohazard. Harper opened it, finding sealed bags of tissue samples, each labeled with dates and codes. One bag bore the date of Lily's disappearance. "Ruiz, get Voss in cuffs!" Harper shouted, his voice shaking with rage. But when he climbed back up, Voss was gone. Ruiz stood by the door, stunned. "He bolted, John. I turned my back for a second." Harper cursed, grabbing Storm's leash. "Find him, boy." Storm tore through the clinic, nose to the ground, leading Harper to a back exit. The door swung open to the parking lot, where Voss's Porsche was peeling out. Harper fired a warning shot, but the car vanished into the night. Storm, undeterred, sniffed the ground, picking up a dropped object. A scalpel, its handle engraved with AV. Harper bagged it, his mind reeling. Voss was their man, but he wasn't working alone. Back at the station, Harper faced a storm of his own. Mayor Evelyn Holt was waiting in his office, her face a mask of controlled fury. "Detective, you're stirring up a hornet's nest. Dr. Voss is a respected member of this community. You can't go accusing him without proof." "I've got proof," Harper said, slamming the scalpel on his desk. "Storm found it, and those files in Voss's basement, they're tied to the missing. You want to explain why Grayson's bankrolling a clinic that's carving up people?" Holt's eyes flickered, but she held firm. "You're out of line, John. This town's on edge. You keep pushing, you'll tear it apart." Harper leaned in, his voice low. "If tearing it apart gets justice for Lily Parker, I'll do it. Tell Grayson to start talking, or I'll haul him in." Holt left without a word, but Harper knew he'd rattled her. The scalpel was being tested for DNA, the files were under review, and Storm was ready for another sweep. But as Harper stared at the caseboard, a note slipped under his door caught his eye. Scrawled in red ink, it read, "You're too late." The air in Willow Creek was heavy with the scent of rain as Detective John Harper stood outside the police station. The cryptic note, "You're too late," crumpled in his fist. The red ink bled slightly in the damp evening air, a taunting reminder that Dr. Alan Voss, the surgeon implicated in the murders of Jimmy Malone and Lily Parker, had slipped through his fingers. Storm, the German shepherd who'd unearthed the scalpel bearing Voss's initials, paced beside him, his growls low and restless. The Greenwater River, visible in the distance, seemed to mock Harper with its silent flow, hiding secrets yet to be uncovered. Inside the station, the mood was grim. Officer Sarah Ruiz sat at her desk, head in her hands, still reeling from Voss's escape at the Willow Creek Wellness Clinic. The basement files, the biohazard cooler, the scalpel, all pointed to a black market organ trafficking ring operating under the town's nose. But Voss's disappearance, coupled with Mayor Evelyn Holt's veiled threats, told Harper the conspiracy reached higher than he'd imagined. Someone was pulling strings, and they weren't done yet. Harper tossed the note onto his desk, where case files and evidence photos lay scattered. Malone's severed arm, Lily's locket, the trap door at the Grayson Mill, the clinic's chilling records, the personal items from the mill, scarf, watch, bracelet, had been linked to Tanya Brooks, Marcus Reed, and Lily Parker, confirming the missing were victims of the Sam killer. The sedative midazolam, found in both Malone and Lily, tied the murders to a medical professional. Voss was the obvious suspect, but Harper's gut screamed he wasn't the mastermind. "Ruiz, any word on Voss's Porsche?" Harper asked, his voice rough from lack of sleep. Ruiz looked up, her eyes red. "State police found it abandoned off I-94, near Ashwood. No prints, no GPS data. He's in the wind." Harper cursed under his breath. "What about the scalpel?" "Forensics is rushing it," Ruiz said. "Preliminary results show blood traces. Human, male, not Malone's. They're cross-referencing with the other victims." Harper nodded, his gaze drifting to Storm, who was sniffing the note on his desk. The dog's instincts had cracked the case wide open, first at the riverbank, then the mill, then the clinic. If anyone could find Voss, it was Storm. "Get me a list of Voss's properties, contacts, anything he might have used to disappear. And dig deeper into Carl Grayson. His mill's a crime scene, his money's in the clinic, and he's dodging us." Ruiz hesitated. "John, Grayson's lawyered up. His attorney called this morning, threatening to sue for harassment. And Holt's breathing down our necks. Maybe we should—" "No," Harper snapped. "We don't back off. Storm found Lily's body. We owe her, and the others, answers. Get moving." As Ruiz left, Harper knelt beside Storm, scratching his ears. "You smell something we don't you, boy?" Storm whined, his nose twitching. Harper slipped the note into an evidence bag, but not before letting Storm sniff it. The dog's hackles rose, and he let out a sharp bark, as if the note itself carried the scent of danger. The next lead came from an unlikely source, Maggie Tate, the homeless woman who'd reported Jimmy Malone missing. She showed up at the station, her coat soaked from the drizzle, clutching a crumpled flyer. "Found this in Jimmy's stuff at the shelter," she said, handing it to Harper. The flyer advertised cash for work, odd jobs, no questions asked, with a phone number and a meeting spot by the river. Harper's pulse quickened. Maggie had mentioned Malone being offered work by a man with a scarred hand. "Maggie, you ever see this guy again? The one with the scar?" She nodded, her voice shaky. Saw him yesterday near the diner, driving a black van, real clean, not like the junkers around here. Had that same fancy coat. Harper thanked her and called Ruiz. Run that number from the flyer and check traffic cams for a black van near the diner yesterday afternoon. While Ruiz worked, Harper took Storm to a remote cabin listed under Voss's name, 20 miles outside Willow Creek in the dense woods of Kettle Moraine. The cabin, a ramshackle A-frame surrounded by pines, looked abandoned, but tire tracks in the mud suggested recent activity. Storm leaped from the truck, nose to the ground, and immediately bolted toward the cabin's porch, barking fiercely. Harper drew his gun, approaching cautiously. The door was ajar, creaking in the wind. Inside, the air was stale, but Storm's barks led to a hidden panel behind a bookshelf. Harper pried it open, revealing a narrow crawl space. Storm squeezed through, emerging with a leather-bound ledger in his jaws, its pages marked with cryptic entries. June 15th, 2024. Male, liver, $50,000, Shanghai. August 10th, 2024. Female, kidney, $30,000, Dubai. Dates and victim profiles match the missing: Tanya Brooks, Marcus Reed, Lily Parker. Harper's blood ran cold. This wasn't just murder, it was a business, harvesting organs for an international black market. Voss's surgical skills made him the perfect executioner, but the ledger's scope suggested a network far beyond one doctor. Names like CG and EH appeared in the margins alongside payments to a Chicago-based shell company. Harper bagged the ledger, his mind racing. CG, Carl Grayson, EH, Evelyn Holt? Back at the station, Ruiz had a hit on the van. Traffic cam caught it on Main Street, 3:17 p.m. yesterday. Registered to a dummy corp, but the driver's license plate traces back to Grayson Properties. And the phone number from the flyer? Burner, but it pinged a tower near the river the night Malone disappeared. Harper's jaw tightened. Grayson's our way in. Let's pay him a visit. Grayson's office was a fortress of glass and steel, its lobby adorned with awards and photos of him shaking hands with politicians. Storm growled as they entered, his eyes fixed on Grayson, who sat behind his desk, sipping bourbon despite the early hour. "Detective, this is getting old," Grayson said, his smile thin. "I told you, the mill's a relic. I don't know anything about your case." Harper tossed the ledger's photocopied pages onto the desk. "Then explain this. Your initials, your mill, your clinic. People are dead, Carl. Start talking, or I drag you in." Grayson's face paled, his fingers trembling as he flipped through the pages. This isn't mine. I invested in the clinic, sure, but I didn't know." "Didn't know what?" Harper pressed, leaning in. "That Voss was cutting people up? That your money was buying organs for Shanghai?" Grayson's voice cracked. "It wasn't my idea. I was in debt, gambling, bad deals. They offered me a way out. I just handled the cash, moved some properties. I never touched the product." "Who's they?" Harper demanded. Storm barked, sensing Grayson's fear. Grayson glanced at the door, lowering his voice. "I can't say. They'll kill me, but it's bigger than Voss, bigger than me. Someone in this town calls the shots." Harper grabbed Grayson's collar. "A name, Carl. Now." Before Grayson could answer, Ruiz burst in, her face ashen. "John, we've got a problem. Someone leaked our search warrant for the clinic. Voss's files are gone, cleaned out an hour ago." Harper released Grayson, his mind reeling. A leak. Someone inside the department was tipping off the ring. He turned to Ruiz, her eyes avoiding his. "Sarah, you were watching Voss. How'd he slip away?" Ruiz flinched, tears welling. I messed up, John. My brother, Eddie, he's in deep with bookies. They threatened him, said they'd hurt him unless I passed info to Grayson's people. I didn't know it'd go this far." Harper's heart sank. Ruiz, his trusted deputy, had betrayed him, but her guilt was real, and he needed her. "You're gonna make this right, Sarah. Help me nail these bastards or you're done." Ruiz nodded, wiping her eyes. "I will. I swear." Grayson, seizing the distraction, reached for his phone, but Storm lunged, snarling, pinning his arm. "Don't move," Harper warned. "You're coming with us." They cuffed Grayson and drove him to the station, but the damage was done. The leak had given the ring time to cover their tracks. Harper interrogated Grayson for hours, extracting fragments of truth. He'd funneled money through the clinic, provided storage at the mill, and recruited workers like Malone to lure victims. But Grayson insisted he didn't know the leader's identity, only that they were untouchable. That night, Harper was called to a new crime scene. Grayson's car was found in a secluded lot, the engine running, a hose feeding exhaust inside. Grayson was slumped in the driver's seat, dead from carbon monoxide poisoning. A typed note read, "I'm sorry." Kessler ruled it a suicide, but Harper wasn't fooled. The note was too clean, the scene too staged. Someone had silenced Grayson before he could name names. With Grayson dead and Voss missing, Harper turned to Storm. The dog's nose had never failed him. He took Storm back to the river, near the dock where Malone's arm was found. The area was a maze of piers and warehouses, some owned by Grayson's shell companies. Storm sniffed the ground, his barks growing urgent near a rusted warehouse by the water. Harper pried open the door, finding a black van, the one Maggie described, parked inside. Storm pawed at the cargo bay, revealing bloodstains and hair samples. Forensics later confirmed DNA from Reed, Brooks, and Klein. The van was a transport, used to move victims or their parts. Harper searched the warehouse, finding a schedule pinned to a wall. Shipment, November 15th, 2024, Chicago, Pier 7. Today's date. Harper radioed Ruiz. "Get a team to Pier 7 now. We've got a shipment going out." Under cover of night, Harper, Ruiz, and a SWAT team surrounded Pier 7, where a small boat was docked, its crew loading crates marked medical supplies. Storm, on a tight leash, growled as Harper crept closer. The crates smelled faintly of antiseptic and blood. Harper signaled the team, and they moved in, shouting, "Police! Hands up!" The crew scattered, but a firefight erupted. Harper tackled a smuggler, cuffing him, while Ruiz secured the boat. Storm's barks led Harper to a crate, where he found sealed bags of organs, livers, kidneys, hearts, packed in ice. The sight turned his stomach, but a cloaked figure at the pier's edge caught his eye. The figure sprinted into the fog, dropping a scrap of paper as Storm gave chase. Harper grabbed the paper, his flashlight revealing the same red ink. "You're too late." Storm returned, panting, the figure gone. The shipment was seized, the crew arrested, but the mastermind had slipped away. Harper clutched the note, his resolve hardening. The ring was crumbling, but the head of the snake was still out there, and he'd find them, no matter the cost. The Greenwater River flowed dark and silent under the November moon, its surface reflecting the flickering lights of Willow Creek. Detective John Harper stood on the riverbank, the crumpled note, "You're too late," burning a hole in his pocket. The words, scrawled in red ink, were a taunt from the mastermind behind the organ trafficking ring that had claimed Jimmy Malone, Lily Parker, and countless others. Dr. Alan Voss was in the wind. Carl Grayson was dead, and the shipment intercepted at Pier 7 had exposed the operation's scale. But Harper knew the head of the snake was still out there. Storm, his German Shepherd partner, sat beside him, ears pricked, as if sensing the battle wasn't over. Inside the Willow Creek police station, the air was thick with tension. Officer Sarah Ruiz, her face etched with guilt over her role as the mole, pored over the ledger from Voss's cabin, its pages detailing organ sales to buyers in Shanghai, Dubai, and Chicago. The initials E.H. circled in Harper's notes pointed to Mayor Evelyn Holt, whose threats to shut down the investigation had grown bolder. Harper's gut told him Holt wasn't just protecting Voss and Grayson. She was the architect of the nightmare that had torn Willow Creek apart. Harper slammed the ledger shut, his voice low. "Ruiz, you said you'd make this right. Prove it. Get me something on Holt. Bank records, emails, anything tying her to the ring." Ruiz nodded, her jaw set. "I've got a lead. When I was passing info to Grayson's people, I recorded a call. It was Holt talking to a buyer in Chicago. She mentioned cleaning house after the mill fire. I didn't know what it meant then, but it's on my phone." Harper's eyes narrowed. "Why didn't you tell me sooner?" "I was scared," Ruiz admitted, her voice breaking. "She threatened my brother, John, but I'm done hiding. I'll get you the file." As Ruiz transferred the recording, Harper took Storm to Holt's estate, a sprawling mansion on the outskirts of town, overlooking the Greenwater. The mayor had always projected an image of benevolence, ribbon cuttings, church picnics, campaign smiles. But Harper saw through the facade. If Holt was the boss, her home might hold the final pieces of the puzzle. The estate was quiet, its manicured lawns shrouded in mist. Harper parked a quarter-mile away, approaching on foot with Storm on a tight leash. The dog's nose twitched, picking up a scent as they neared the property. Storm's low growl led Harper to a detached garage, its windows blacked out. The side door was unlocked, and Harper slipped inside, flashlight sweeping the darkness. The garage was a front. Beneath a tarp, a trap door led to a staircase descending into the earth. Harper's pulse raced. "Find it, boy," he whispered, letting Storm lead. The dog's barks echoed in the narrow passage, guiding Harper to a steel door reinforced with a keypad. Storm pawed at the frame, sniffing a faint crack where antiseptic and blood seeped through. Harper radioed Ruiz. "Sarah, I'm at Holt's place. Underground lab, locked door. Get back up now." Ruiz's voice crackled. "On it. John, the recording's clean." Holt's voice clear as day, arranging a shipment. "I'm sending it to the DA." Harper didn't have time to wait. He smashed the keypad with his flashlight, sparking wires, and the door clicked open. The room beyond was a nightmare. A sterile lab with surgical tables, coolers, and cages along the walls. In the cages, 3 figures huddled, 2 men and a teenage girl, emaciated but alive. Harper recognized the girl from a missing persons flyer, Mia Chen, 15, presumed dead after vanishing in July. "Police!" Harper shouted, rushing to the cages. "You're safe now." The prisoners, weak and terrified, whispered thanks as Harper pried the locks open. Storm stood guard, his barks sharp and protective. The lab held more horrors: shelves of medical tools, vials of midazolam, and a logbook listing harvests with victim names: Brooks, Reed, Klein, Parker, and others. Holt's signature was scrawled on every page, her elegant cursive a chilling contrast to the brutality. Harper bagged the evidence, his rage boiling. Holt had turned Willow Creek into a slaughterhouse, preying on the vulnerable to fund her failing town. A faint noise, a door slamming upstairs, snapped Harper to attention. "Storm, with me!" He led the survivors to the staircase, guns drawn. The garage was empty, but Storm's barks exploded as he bolted toward the riverbank behind the estate. Harper followed, spotting a figure sprinting toward a docked speedboat. It was Holt, her coat flapping as she climbed aboard, engine roaring to life. "Stop!" Harper shouted, firing a warning shot. The boat lurched forward, cutting through the Greenwater's current. Harper sprinted along the bank, Storm racing ahead, his barks echoing like a war cry. The dog's training kicked in, years of pursuit drills with Harper, and he leaped from the bank, landing on the boat's deck with a thud. Holt screamed, swinging a fire extinguisher at Storm, but the dog dodged, sinking his teeth into her arm. The boat veered, scraping a sandbar, and Harper seized his chance. He dove into the shallows, climbing aboard as Storm pinned Holt to the deck. "It's over, Evelyn," Harper growled, cuffing her wrists. "You're done." Holt's eyes blazed, defiant even in defeat. "You think this stops it? The town was dying, John. I saved Willow Creek. Those people, drifters, junkies, nobodies, they were a small price to pay." Harper tightened the cuffs, his voice cold. "Tell that to Lily Parker's foster mom." Backup arrived, SWAT flooding the estate. The survivors were rushed to the hospital, and Holt was hauled to the station. Ruiz met Harper at the dock, her face pale but resolute. "The DA's got the recording. State police are rounding up Holt's contacts in Chicago. We got her, John." Harper nodded, but the victory felt hollow. The lab, the cages, the names in the logbook. Each was a wound Willow Creek would carry for years. He knelt beside Storm, who licked his hand, sensing his pain. "You did it, boy. You brought him home." The next week was a blur of arrests and revelations. Holt's confession, coerced by the overwhelming evidence, exposed the ring's scope. She'd started small, using Grayson's properties to store bodies, then partnered with Voss to harvest organs for international buyers. The town's budget deficits, masked by Holt's miracle grants, were funded by blood money. Grayson had been her financier, Voss her executioner, and a network of smugglers had moved the organs through Chicago's ports. The leak, Ruiz's betrayal, had been Holt's insurance, exploiting Ruiz's brother to keep tabs on the investigation. Ruiz faced suspension but avoided charges, her cooperation and the recording earning her leniency. She visited Harper at the station, her badge surrendered. "I'm sorry, John. I'll never forgive myself." Harper looked at her, his anger softened by exhaustion. "You made it right, Sarah. That's what counts. Now go take care of your brother." Willow Creek grappled with the fallout. The press descended, turning the town into a circus. Families of the victims, Tanya Brooks's sister, Marcus Reed's cousin, Clara Evans for Lily, demanded answers. Harper met them, his voice steady as he promised justice. The station's caseboard, once cluttered with photos and notes, was cleared, each file closed but not forgotten. On a crisp Saturday evening, the town gathered for a candlelight vigil by the Greenwater River. Hundreds stood in silence, holding candles that flickered like stars. Clara Evans spoke, her voice trembling. "Lily loved this river. She'd draw it, dream by it. They took her, but we'll remember her heart, her light." The crowd sang "Amazing Grace," the hymn echoing across the water. Harper stood at the edge, Storm at his side, the dog's fur warm against his leg. The Willow Creek PD presented Storm with a Canine medal, its ribbon pinned to his collar. The applause was deafening, but Storm just nudged Harper's hand, loyal to the end. As the vigil ended, Harper walked to the river's edge, staring at the current. The Greenwater had been a grave, a hiding place for horrors, but tonight it felt different, cleansed, if only a little. He thought of Malone, Parker, and the others, their lives stolen by greed. Holt's words, "a small price to pay," haunted him, but so did Clara's, her heart, her light. Justice had come, but the cost was etched in every face at the vigil. Harper scratched Storm's ears, his voice soft. "We did okay, didn't we, boy?" Storm barked, a single proud sound that cut through the night. Harper smiled, the weight lifting, if only for a moment. The next morning, Harper filed his report, the case officially closed. But as he walked through Willow Creek, past the diner, the church, the shuttered clinic, he knew the town would never be the same. The scars were deep, but so was its resilience. He and Storm would keep watch, ready for whatever the river might reveal next.